Okay, this is going to be the second video that starts to make the piano move and bounce from one side of the screen to the other. We have our piano moving up and down, and I have stretched out my net to be really wide just to help me with testing to see what's going on. So I also moved my head over to this left-hand corner so you can see everything that happens in the inspector. We're going to start to get rather long over here about what's going on. Okay, so I would like to make a new C# script. Let's call this bouncing ball. And I want to drag that script and put it on the piano. And by doing so, now I have a script down here, which is called bouncing ball. And wait a second, one of those got added extra, probably because I was doing something before, but I have a script in there now. Let's save that. And let's open it up. I currently have things set up to use Visual Studio. And Visual Studio says, cool. Here is your code for the bouncing ball. What do I want to do? I want to start this by giving it a push. I'm going to start moving it. It is a class bouncing ball. We have all these things that are part of Unity. We have access to the generic collections in C#, but the Unity engine is the namespace where all these cool objects live that we want to deal with. So let's give ourselves a way to talk about our rigid body. So we have a rigid body 2D. Let's call it RB2D. And start kind of acts like constructors that we've seen in other places. It's technically not, but it is the thing that gets pieces of our fields assigned as the game gets started. Because we're not creating them, we're dragging them over. We get to say, what happens when you wake up? Well, I need to remember that this is the rigid body 2D component that is attached to this game object. Mono behaviors are the scripts. There's game objects, which is the thing that we're seeing out here. This is a game object, and it has components. Be scripts, be they other things. And so this is how I get this part down here to talk to this part up here. I want to say, hey, rigid body, I went and got the component from the game object. Let's go make it do something. Rigid body 2D. Let's add a force. And there's a nice constant out there called transform right. So we don't have to remember the vectors and exactly which x, y, and z. It's just a nice name for it. And we are going to add force to say go to the right. And let's give it a nice number like 135 to give it a lot of force to the right when it starts off. Okay, we've saved the script. We know the script was saved because we got that little box. And now let's try to move the piano up to the top of the building and say that's where it's going to get thrown out. See what happens. Ah! It does. It gets thrown out and pushed all the way over to the right. Good. That is making sense. Next thing I want to do is have the net down here be controlled by the user. I really want to make that into a net that a user can move their mouse back and forth and the net will follow them. Okay, we're getting to the point where we have a lot of little things being thrown into assets. Unity helps you organize things by letting you make folders. Unity doesn't care, but we care where they go. So I'm going to make a folder of scripts. Throw my script in there. See, everything's just happy out there. I'm going to make another folder called materials. Put my material in there. I don't want to lose things as I start making a bigger and bigger project. Okay, so let's make a new script. And we're going to make a script that says I want this thing to follow the mouse, a follow mouse script. So we can make the net follow the mouse. Okay, so the net has its rigid body box collider and a follow mouse script that's showing up down here. Great, let's open that up. Perfect, we're back in place here. We know where our things are. If we want to follow the mouse, we don't talk to start, we talk to update, because every fraction of a second, every frame of the game that is being generated, we need to make sure we are tracking the mouse. So we're going to make a vector2. It's just a two-dimensional simple class that's part of Unity. And we're going to talk to the camera. There's always one camera in the scene that's called the main camera. You can have multiple cameras, which make multiple viewpoints. If you're like, I want to have a picture in a picture, you can do that. But there's always one that is the main. And so we're going to ask it to do a screen to world point conversion. I want to take these coordinates, which are somehow on the screen, and turn them into the coordinate world of the game, where 0, 0 is in the middle and other things are around it. That's where my camera is focused, but that is not the exact same thing as the 960 by 600 piece that's out here. So let's make that happen. I want to actually ask it to translate what point. You can give it lots of points that are on the screen, and I'm going to ask for the mouse position. Unity knows where the mouse is in terms of screen coordinates. This converts from the camera screen to Unity world points to give me a position that I can use in the game with its internal coordinates. So I need to say transform position. Let's make a new vector2 with that x value. Where is it on the screen? And transform position y. Keep the y position from before, give myself a new x position. Let's see if it follows me around. Scripts have been saved. Good. What happens? Aha! I can move my net back and forth. Great. Okay, I got one piano all the way into the moving van. Let's see if I can get some more. That's what I want to do next. So this is a good place to archive and save what's going on. Note the things that we've been adding. We rearranged pieces. We have scripts, materials. We have some extra meta directories that Unity just keeps track of what's going on. Let's stage all those changes and say piano throne and net follows mouse. Those are good commits. Let's go ahead and push that. Good. Our next steps are going to be adding in lots of pianos. Now we could do that. We could copy them up here and make them, but that sort of pre-fills in tons of pianos. Let's make these dynamically. And so in my folder organization down here, I'm going to create a folder called prefabs. Prefabs is the Unity name for things that are sort of packaged up and ready to go that you can instantiate and create. So let's copy our piano down to here to give us a prefab piano. Now, like I was saying before in class, you can actually take this and throw this out into the world now. And now we have lots of copies of it from the prefab. And if I change the dimensions of one of them up here, it only changes one. But if I click down here and change the dimensions in the prefab, then I am changing all of them. I'm not changing that one. That happens to be you. And somehow up here your prefabs can get disconnected. I want it to revert all. And if I do something here and I want to apply it to everything else, then I could do like the apply all and force it to push from one to the other. But see, I really don't want that. I want to go back to what it was. And so now they should all be connected and they're already here. Okay, so what I really want to do is get rid of all these pianos in the scene and just have my pre-baked prefab piano down here ready to throw in as soon as I want it. Okay, so let's make a script. I want my building to be in charge of throwing pianos. Let's make a script up here called like throw piano. Attach it to the building so that it works. Save it. And now I can go edit my piano script. See if that opens up here. Yes. Throw piano. Well, I need to know about that prefab. And a script can know about a prefab by setting up a public game object field. Let's call it piano here. And by doing so, let's see what happens back here in Unity. Let's go to my building, and my piano script has a slot. It's like, give me a piano if you want one. I have to take one down here from the prefabs. Your piano is the prefab piano. Now your connection there is to what is waiting here in the edges, waiting to be thrown onto the screen, and the word for throwing it onto the screen is called instantiate. So I can instantiate that game object. This will make it so it now shows up as soon as the game starts, because the building wakes up, says, hey script, do your stuff. It instantiates a piano and throws it. There it is. Now notice that over here there are four things: our camera, building, van, and net. And when you play, you get a piano clone. That is the piano that was instantiated. Okay, let's go through a few ways to make lots of pianos. One way is to set up a method down here, like void drop piano. And in there, I'm going to instantiate the piano. And up here, I can say invoke repeating the drop piano function. Wait about 2 seconds, and then every 2.5 seconds, do it again. Let's see what happens. Two seconds. Piano. Every 2.5 seconds, I now get a piano. Okay, so, whoa, there we go. We've got our pianos showing up every 2.5 seconds. This starts the method, calls it every time, but we can get even more details in there if we don't like these exact numbers of what's going on. Here is the way to do that using coroutines. We have to have something that gets returned because we are starting a thread and it is pausing and starting on different time scales. So let's say here we're gonna drop piano 2, and inside here somehow we are going to instantiate the piano, but we get to be the one that starts this loop and does the pausing. So let's do the loop first. We are going to do this loop, and afterwards, because we are an enumerator, we get to do some fancy language. We get to say yield, return, new, wait 4 seconds, say 2.5. This is equivalent to the waiting 2.5 seconds here. If I want to do the 2F pause in the first part, then I'm going to say this method is going to yield and wait for 2 seconds. Okay, so instead of saying invoke repeating up here, I have to say start coroutine drop piano 2. Let's see what we get here. This should do the exact same thing as it was before, waiting 2 seconds and then starting to throw pianos at me. There they are. And then every 2.5 seconds, I get another piano. Good. Boom, boom. Okay. This code did exactly the same thing, but this one is much more flexible because I could say, well, instead of 2.5 seconds, what if I want it to be a random number? So in Unity and C#, I can say 2 to 4 seconds is going to be my waiting for seconds here. I could have this be a function depending on how many things I have caught. There's lots of flexibility that once you have opened up a coroutine, again, you are in charge of controlling that behavior. So now the game has a bit more tension, a bit more interest to it about what's going on. It waits 2 seconds, and then it's not exactly 2.5 seconds each time. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. This is trickier for me to coordinate exactly which ones are going where. Okay, this is good. I'm going to stop this video here, and then next time I will add in some sprites and rearrange the world in that way.